Micro, small, and medium enterprises in the British Virgin Islands are being encouraged to ensure that their trade licenses accurately reflect the goods and services being provided and are in good standing. In this regard, the Department of Trade, Investment Promotion and Consumer Affairs has embarked on a spot and check trade inspections campaign. For the Department of Information and Public Relations, I am your host for this program, GIS Information Officer Nadia James Harris. And joining me to speak more on the campaign is the Director of the Department of Trade, Investment Promotion and Consumer Affairs, Mrs. Carrie Christopher. Welcome to our program.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Nadia Harris. I'm very much appreciative of your time.
We are starting on the spot and check campaign for the department. You've already started it with the campaign with inspectors going out. Tell us about this campaign. What is it really supposed to be achieving?
Well, first of all, we're not trying to ensue fear in patrons and business owners. We really just want to encourage compliance. And I want to begin by saying the British Virgin Islands trade licenses fees are the lowest in the entire Caribbean. And so we feel that it's just prudent that based on what I can do, we encourage enforcement of the law, because it would be unfair in my book, I believe in anybody's book, for persons to be operating out there outside of the jurisdiction of the department. It's not safe, not ethical, and really it just does not encourage good governance. So we're just trying to enforce the law. Enforce is a strong word, but we want persons to be compliant with the Department of Trade, Investment and Promotions, with the requirements considered necessary to run a business effectively.
The program started on October 31st.
Yes.
When does it end? Does it ever end?
It does not ever end. And what we and the timing was not accidental. We wanted to ensure that the timing was coincided with renewals of trade licenses. So what the public really need to know from now is that you're able to actually pay your trade license for 2017 from October. So in preparation for that, because if you're a business owner, you know that the lines can be very, very long in January and December. We're saying, please come out and do the right thing. And there are some penalties that we are prepared to enforce. Again, not as a scare tactic, but just to encourage good governance and to ensure that our records are up to date and accurate. And that's a very important part of what we do here as well.
What do businesses need to do in order to be compliant with the program?
It depends on the business that you have. Let's say, for instance, a retail store, retail for clothing. Our inspectors will go out and we are able to go to your store always with respect for the store owners. It should never be a contentious situation. We never have had any incidences of that. And firstly, they should identify themselves. They will be branded, of course, but out of courtesy, they would identify themselves. And if you have a trade license, and our records will indicate, to sell clothing, we expect that you will only sell clothing there. If we see a sidebar with patties and juices, that's a major infraction. Not only is it an environmental health concern, it is something that's another aspect of a business, and we're not able to quantify the properties and the departments and the units that we have properly if we don't know what's going on. So we will send you a letter and we will tell you right then and there that this is not accurate and this does not reflect the trades database. And we, of course, will give you some time to rectify that issue and, if necessary, impose sanctions.
So if a person wants to rectify whatever issue has been identified, you're supposed to be selling food and you are selling other items, whether it be clothing, whether it be trinkets. Sometimes businesses want to diversify.
Yeah.
How can that be rectified? What are the types of documents? What actions would persons have to go through to update their trade license?
Well, first of all, the Department of Trade we have to recognize that it's very important from our end to educate the public. So this campaign is part of the strategy to educate the business owners out there on what is expected. And so we're not saying to you, today is October 1st, October 2nd, close down. Many persons feign ignorance. Honestly, I really don't have ignorance to be an excuse as a business owner. I believe that as a business owner, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your business and employees to understand the repercussions and the significance of opening a business. If you are to open a store that's Snacket, there are environmental health approvals that would need to be adhered to. The Department of Trade works in tandem with other departments. And so persons get frustrated sometimes because they don't understand the process. We are not able to assess from an environmental health point of view if this environment is safe, if there's grease traps, if there's adequate settings, lightings, ventilation. There are experts for that. And so during the application process for something like a Snacket, we inform you that this is a 2 or 3 step process. And normally we work very, very good with all of the different departments. And we say, okay, based on our assessment, because we have our own inspectors, you are not able to sell clothes and shoes on one side and sell pâtés and sandwiches on the other side. It simply is not a healthy environment. And so again, it's not a scare tactic. It's really based on health, concern, and compliance. And so we can talk about a various amount of different scenarios that would apply. And so if you think that you might be breaking the law, call us. We're not going to shut you down tomorrow. We like that you have understood that there is an issue and we want to help you expand your business, or as you said, diversify, but in the proper way.
And it's important that businesses understand what is going on, just in case they may be breaking the law.
Yes.
And not to be, you don't want to break the law ignorantly.
Right.
And you want to know what is going on. And speaking of laws, is there a law that allows the trading inspectors to come in? I mean, when you turn up at a business place and they ask, well, show me in the law. Where is it in the law?
Yes, and with new business owners and 2016, people have a right to question. We have a legislation, and of course, we're going to operate exactly as the legislation says, because we know that we have more educated, more persons who are, within their right to ask questions. And so before we send persons out into the business community, we make sure that we tell them, please operate within the confines of the law. Ensure that you do not do anything that's outside of our legislations. And I guarantee you, if any business owner feels that they have had some unscrupulous involvement, we encourage them to come in and make your concerns known to me. I doubt that would happen because we have some very professional persons going out there, but we are absolutely operating within the confines of the law. And when necessary, we will be able to quote whatever section of our legislation to appease the business owner.
So take us through the process of a trade inspection. Your inspectors arrive at the business. What happens once they step onto the premises?
Sure. The first thing that we ensure would happen is that no inspector will come to your business without a branded paraphernalia, whether a shirt, polo, whatever it is, so that you can be aware that this is an official government person here. And they should introduce themselves. Hello, Mr. Elwin Barry is our main trade inspector, and he will introduce himself. I think he's very well known in the public anyhow. I am simply here to make an inspection. You can carry on with your business as you will, or you are able to follow me through. We are not going to touch or move anything without asking your permission. Sir, are you okay with this? Hopefully they will say yes, but we are able to do it regardless anyhow. It should really be a conversation of sorts. It should not involve any stress unless you're outside the confines of the law. And even if you are, it's okay. He is not authorized at that point, or whoever goes out, to say, I'm sorry, we'll close you down. He is authorized, though, to say, we have found A, B, C, D infractions. Further communication will be documented to you in writing regarding the inspection that we have here. And if you have any concerns, or you have any concerns regarding the correspondence, please feel free to write us back. And so it has to have that dialogue where persons feel that their rights are not being, violated. And never the case at all.
What would you say to persons who may argue that the campaign is prevented them from getting their hustle on, or
Yes.
they're not catching a break. They're trying to operate a business.
Yeah.
What do you say to persons doing that?
Again, when we spoke earlier, I said there's no excuse. I feel ignorance is no excuse in a business environment. And if we go about having a lawless society, then what else rules can we break? Then what examples are we setting to children in school? Oh, well, I can't catch a break. They said I should wear white socks, but I only had blue, so why can't I wear blue? I strongly believe that there has to be a measure of enforcement with everything that we do so that we can encourage a civilized organization. Yes, people want to get their hustle on, but there has to be a proper way to do things. Here at the department, we are accountable to the government, to the people really, to decide if, for instance, this has been a ticklish conversation, somebody wants to have a beauty salon. We would have to make our own assessment and say, well, hold up. On our records, we have about 800 beauty salons here, and I'm just calling the number, but it's pretty high. 800 beauty salons here in the British Virgin Islands. Explain to me why we should give you this. We have a duty to ensure that businesses in certain categories are not saturated, because then nobody would make any money. And so it's not a matter of trying to curtail a hustle or try to ensure that persons don't feel that entrepreneurial spirit, but in everything there must be some measure of control. I certainly believe that, and we're not going to say that you can or you cannot do this. Our job also is to advise you and to help you to make your business better, and we cannot do that accurately if we don't understand what's happening outside there.
You mentioned this earlier in the interview, and we just want to reiterate that what will happen to persons who are found to be in violation of the laws or even in violation of what their trade licenses are stating?
Right. So it depends on the violation. For instance, if there is a violation when it comes to health and safety, safety is always the number one violation for us, because we have to be careful that we're not endorsing businesses that will be a potential health hazard out there. So those businesses, we will be able to say, well, okay, we are not able to renew your trade license until these things are rectified. There are conditional trade licenses in a lot of aspects, especially for health and safety measures, where we make sure we get the endorsement from places like Town and Country Planning. If you have a gas station, you are not able to just take upon and open a gas station. Town Planning, the Department of Fire and Rescue, those are the persons that have to be involved in it for the safety of yourself, the well-being of your neighbors, and really the British Virgin Islands, because we are becoming a very litigious organization. So at the end of the day, it cannot be said that the Department of Trade, Investment Promotion and Consumer Affairs has turned a blind eye. So it really depends on the type of violation it is. We obviously do everything in tandem with the Office of the Premier, and the Premier is my boss, but he's very well aware of what we're trying to do here, and we have to protect the BVI from any impending lawsuits, because at the end of the day, anyone can come and say, well, listen, this department is very much aware that this person has a gas station next to a preschool without any, and that is us. So in certain areas, we're able to close you down immediately. In certain areas, we're saying to you, conditionally, you have 90 days to rectify these, and we will follow up. I guarantee you we'll follow up, but we'll always make sure it's a conversation and not we're trying. We're going to really do our best to ensure that the customer service is important. You don't feel threatened, but you feel more empowered and saying, oh, I didn't know that. I feel more educated. And that's really part of the purpose of this as well.
As part of your educational efforts and making sure that the public is aware of compliance, the culture of compliance that the department is trying to create with the trade licensing process, you're also partnering with other agencies to provide business support services.
Yes.
And we know that there is a workshop coming up, and it's going to be in collaboration with the COSME program.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Trade has now evolved from being synonymous with just trade licenses. We have put a lot of money, investment, time, resources, people, everything in fueling that entrepreneurial spirit with small and medium-sized businesses. We're now on the plank with international investors. So we have diversified this department into a whole lot of different things, and we have the added junior minister, Honorable Marlon Penn. What part of my mandate is to ensure that businesses feel that they are supported, and they can only be supported again with education. And so we have partnered with COSME for this particular workshop on project management. And when we say project management, it does not mean construction. We think at Miss Shana Smith is the instructor for this. It's free, including lunch at the Moorings on the 29th of November. It's, I think, from 9 to 3. And what that does, you can be a caterer. You're basically being instructed and being taught on how to manage your time, manage the processes of what's happening. And a lot of times we as business owners don't know the tools to make our business work. So what we do with COSME and a lot of other entities is we kind of listen to the business community. What are your concerns? And so that has been a concern where persons get frazzled. They don't understand how to manage the time, manage the resources, manage anything that would make them get to the next level. So we believe that Ms. Shana Smith is very capable of being an instructor. She has had great reviews. And again, this is part of us encouraging young entrepreneurs. And Shana happens to be a young entrepreneur. And we think that she will handle this situation wonderful. She's very inspiring. And her instruction type thing is not really a classroom. It's more involved
engaging and
very engaging. And so this is free. We have limited spaces. Obviously, you will come into the Department of Trade. I believe it's going to be on the government's website.
The registration form is on the government's website, and
Yes.
I know that the registrants, the participants, can also call the department. They can complete the form and email it to
Yes.
rgeorge@gov.bg. And the deadline for registration, what would be the deadline for registration since the seminar is on the 29th?
Once there are 20 spaces available. So what we will encourage persons is to say, first come, first serve.
First come, first
The
serve.
earlier that you try to make this application, and it's not a you'll get in or you won't get in. Once there's a business or an interest in a business, then it's free. It's free, it's fun, it's a fantastic opportunity to hone in your craft for that particular business. And I think it's going to be the best investment of your time and energy, because the government of the Virgin Islands, along with COSME, has put in all the resources needed for you for that one day to come away feeling empowered. And again, this is part of the Department of Trade's initiative to diversify our portfolio. Bigger than just doing trade licenses, is to encourage businesses to get that hustle on, but get it on properly and get it on right and be an educated hustler, if you want to say that.
Well, Mrs. Christopher, thank you so much for talking with us about the upcoming Spot and Check campaign, as well as the project management seminar that's going to be held on November 29th for our small business community. For the Department of Information and Public Relations and the Premier's Office, I have been your host for this program, GIS Information Officer Nadia James Harris, and my guest has been Mrs. Carrie Christopher. She's the Director of Trade, Investment Promotion and Consumer Affairs. For more on government's news and latest updates, remember to log on to the government's website at bpi.gov.bg/Media Center, or follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at BBI Government.